Thanks very much, Don. And so, hey, listen, I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but Don's sitting down here and he's doing this timing thing, and I'm just about to throw that timing thing right out the window. Because here's why. I want you to know that he told you about how these talks came to be. And these talks, it's been kind of a long sort of journey. And at every step in the journey, it's first initial idea, and then it's, let's see your PowerPoints, and let's hear what it is you want to talk about. This fellow's been standing beside us every single step of the way. And it's been wonderful to feel such strong support from such a distance. So thank you very much. And everyone, please join with me in thanking Don. So there you go. Timing is now out the window. I don't know how he's going to control this. So I'm going to start now. And I'm going to start by telling you, first of all, it was a long drive. And my name is Tim. I'm a chartered mediator. I'm a qualified arbitrator. I'm a professional certified coach. I'm a certified executive coach. And I've passed the Campbell soup test. I am good. Now, look, I've been a mediator for almost 15 years now. 2 years working with the RCMP. I finished off a 30-year career in the Air Force, where the last 10 years I spent working with folks that were deploying into difficult situations into harm's way. And I learned a lot from those folks. And I'm going to share the keys to the universe, those 3 core values with you today. In order to do that, first of all, I need to take you guys back to old school, back to the very beginning, back when you studied Mediation 101. And Mediation 101, what we believed was that when people are on their mountaintops, we say that they're in their positions. And when they're in their positions, you know that there's no way they're going to come to a resolution because they're too far apart. So our job as mediators is to bring them down into that valley where they're going to find that they have shared interests and values. And in those shared interests and values, they're going to find the rehumanization within each other. They're going to recognize humanity in the other. And in the other, that's when they're going to start crafting solutions that are going to be strong and forward-thinking and resilient. The best example I have of that happened in April of 2006. There were these 2 men. They were over in Afghanistan. The one on the left is Lieutenant Colonel Ian Hope. The one on your right is Ibrahim. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Ian Hope is PPCLI. He's no longer a Lieutenant Colonel. And his job at the time was to hunt and kill Taliban. Ibrahim was a leader of the team that was building the IEDs that were killing Canadians. 2 men further apart you will not find. However, the universe seems to work in a synchronistic way because Ibrahim was captured. And when Ibrahim was captured, he was in the final stages of kidney disease. Ian Hope's mother had died of kidney failure. When Ibrahim was captured, what the Canadian military did with him is what we did with all sick and injured enemy combatants. We took him to the hospital and started nursing him back to health. What Ian Hope did was unusual because Ian Hope went to the hospital and started visiting Ibrahim. And in Ian Hope's own words, not once did we talk about the war. Instead, what we talked about was kidney disease. We talked about farming. Both of them hadn't been born and raised on farms. We talked about chocolate. We talked about tea. After 6 weeks, Ibrahim said to the CTV crew that was embedded, he said, listen, give me my wheelchair and turn your cameras on. And so they did. And they wheeled Ibrahim out. Ibrahim looked into the cameras and he said, hey, Taliban, listen up. You should put down your rifles. These Canadians, they're really, really good people. We can talk to them. Sadly, the Taliban didn't watch a lot of CTV, so his message didn't have a huge impact on the war effort. However, the meaning behind it cannot be lost, because if these 2 men who would have killed each other can find common ground, then why can't we? Why can't your clients? And the truth is they can. And they can when we take them deeper than this notion about interests. And this is the keys to the universe. When we take them deeper than interests, we get to their values. And when we're talking about a person's values, we're talking about how they define themselves as a human being. And what I've seen in every single file that I've had to manage is that it doesn't matter where you come from on this planet, doesn't matter what color your skin is, doesn't matter what your gender is, doesn't matter what your social standing is. We all need to be appreciated, included, and respected. Now think about this for just a second, because there's not a person in this room who wouldn't claim these values as well. But what do they mean? Well, appreciation. We took our notion, and please know, we built this model in the military. I see you. We built this model in the military. And in the military, we were looking at those things called the 5 love languages. Now, typically in the military, when I went to work with a bunch of hardcore warriors, when I said, you know what, we really want to look at your love languages, I'd get a bit of pushback. However, when I talked about languages of appreciation, this made a lot of sense to them. And languages of appreciation mirror love languages. Did you know that according to the study and the research, 75% of folks who leave jobs don't leave jobs because they're not getting paid enough? You know why 75% of people leave jobs? Because they haven't felt appreciated. And yet, check this out. This is how important it is to the human psyche. What's the first thing a mother says when she passes a cookie to a toddler? Say thank you. So we learned very early in this game of humanity to show gratitude for the gifts that were given, and yet as we continue to grow older, we seem to forget those lessons. And what else happens is that we seem to develop a real narrow view of what that means. So for some people, it's acts of kindness, words, gifts, or quality time. We need to reground ourselves in that and think about this for a moment. Think about the files that you've managed, whether you've managed family files, labor relations files. Think about those files. Has appreciation, the lack of appreciation, been something that's been tread upon? Or how about inclusion? Do you know, human beings were pack animals. In fact, the limbic part of our brain is built to make connections. And you know this to be a truth. You know that when we're small, we designate our tribes, our clans, our cliques, our gangs, our friends, our families, and we learn to rely on them. We know that we can accomplish more on this planet with other people around us than we can ourselves. And as we grow up, we look for opportunities to express that. So I know that you believe this to be a truth because you all belong to my family, this family of ADRIC. And so inclusion is so important to us. In fact, Frederick II, he was a Holy Roman Emperor in the early 13th century. What he did was he wanted to find out what the original language was in the Garden of Eden. So he took a bunch of orphans, newly born babies. He put them in an orphanage, and he said to the nursemaids, provide the sustenance of life, but do not make emotional connection with these children. Do not coddle them, do not speak to them, do not make facial expressions, because I want to find out what the original language was in the Garden of Eden. And if we just leave them with each other, they'll develop their own language, and that will be the language from the Garden of Eden. What were the results? By the age of 2, every single one of those children was dead. We are built to connect. And yet consider your files that you manage, specifically in family files. What's it like to be a non-custodial parent when people focus on the non-custodial part and not the parent part? When they start excluding people from relationships that are so important. Respect. This is the one. I see you again. Respect. This is the one that gets violated more than the other two altogether. Respect is something that we cling to with such steadfast sternness. And in fact, you know, when I'm managing my files with my clients, I'll see them say something like, you know, that other person, he's treating me so poorly. And I say, well, look, it looks to me like respect is really important to you. Yes, Tim, thank God, somebody finally gets me. Well, tell me something. Can you tell me what respect means? And then I get this glassy stare. Consider it for yourself for a moment. If I was to ask you to define respect, how would you define it? Only the bravest will make an attempt at it, and sometimes they say things like, well, respect is the golden rule, Tim. It's quite simple. Well, what's the golden rule? Well, it's to treat other people the way you want to be treated. Well, how do you want to be treated? Well, with respect, and the bus goes round and round. Do you know why it is you have such a tough time defining respect? Because since you were this high, you've been told, respect your mother, respect your father, respect the milkman, respect the teacher, respect the dog, respect your sister, but no one ever said, oh, by the way, this is what it means. So instead, you were sitting down at the table one day, and you looked over and said, hey, Mom, pass the frickin' potatoes. And your father went, hey, don't be disrespectful. And you looked up and said, all right, thanks, Dad, I'll make a note of that. Note, cursing Mom at the table is disrespect. So you learned respect not by what it is, but by what it isn't. And you learned it through your life experiences, which means that every single one of you will define respect in a slightly subtle different way because you've all had your own life experiences. So in our files, we need to slow down and start saying, it sounds like respect is important. What does it mean to you? And how in this moment can you honor that core value of who you are when you're at your best? It's the keys to the universe. Appreciation, inclusion, and respect. It's air. These are the things that we use to define ourselves. Yet in the moment of conflict, These are the first three values that we tread upon and throw out. As conflict management practitioners, it's our role to reground our clients in who they are when they're at their best. And when they're at their best, they can have conversations around this. It's like applying the prayer of St. Francis. And the prayer of St. Francis says this: in order to be loved, you must first find out how to love. Well, in order to be appreciated, you must first find out how to appreciate the other. Give it to them, they'll give it back. You must find a way to include the other. Give it to them, they'll give it back. You must find a way to be unconditionally respectful to the other, and they'll give it back. Here's the truth. You guys know this now. Now it's your responsibility. If you're in a conversation with clients and they're missing these three core values, it's your job to breathe air in.
Thanks. So I just want to comment that I saw Tim's video quite a few months back, and I refused to actually see his presentation. I did not know what the three core values were up to this moment, and it's fantastic. Thank you very much, Tim. That's fantastic. Are there any questions?